2, 1. Another in our chats, and today we hear about the Tortworth Forest Centre, run by Bec Cork. The 20 or so acres provides a learning and educational centre, plus a home to hundreds of trees. Hi there, Bec.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Good, nice to see you. Thanks for coming on. And let's talk, if we can, to start with, about the Tortworth Forest Centre. So how did it start?
It came about in a very interesting way. I had been in touch with the owner of a woodland organisation called woodlands.co.uk, who many people may know because we all have a dream of owning a piece of woodland, myself included. And I happened to mention to him that I was interested in doing something that would be good for mental health. And a few years later, he came back to me and mentioned that he'd just purchased this amazing piece of land that wasn't just a woodland, it was a tree collection with an incredible history, and asked me if I wanted to take on the lease for it. And I immediately said, no, what do I know? I couldn't possibly do that. But he decided that I should do it and that I should get started, and that what I didn't know I could learn. And that the skills I brought to it, which is finding great people, would actually be what made it a success. And that was in 2015. You could barely walk around the site because it hadn't been managed for quite a while. It had previously been incredibly well managed by the previous owners, but it sort of reduced down the amount that they could actually do. So we couldn't walk through it at the time. And so
Wow.
with loppers and bill hooks and things like that. And now we have a quite incredible woodland site with lots of funding and lots of events and lots of regular activities. We have a roundhouse in case it pours down with rain. Thanks to the Heritage Lottery Fund, we've actually managed to geolocate and list on a spreadsheet every single tree that's there, including the non-specimen trees that have grown up in the meantime. So we've got our list. We know exactly which ones we don't have an ID for, so we can start looking at getting them ID'd. We've collated a list of our favourite trees and put them on maps so that visitors can come and have a look at the ones that we think are the most beautiful, either because they're a champion tree or because they are particularly beautiful or a really great example of that species. And we're starting just this season, we've started putting labels on with our new numbering system just to collate everything that we've got together. All the new trees that we've started planting as well are going on that list, and we're getting as many people in to see the site, meet the trees, plant a few trees themselves as we possibly can.
So I think it's fair to say at this point, I mean, you know, your arboretum is part of Tortworth Court, just off the M5 at junction 14. So it was a private home at some stage, a big family house that's now, you know, has seen better days. Can I say that? You know what I mean? It's and your arboretum, unlike Westernbert and the other ones in the Gloucestershire, is a private estate, isn't it? As such, I mean, can members of the public just rock up and buy a ticket? I mean, how do people actually see the estate?
The Topical Arboretum itself spans quite a few different properties. There's an incredibly beautiful, well-managed bit of the Arboretum that is owned by the hotel around the grounds of the hotel. There are some beautiful specimen trees in the open prison next door as well, and I think they manage them rather beautifully too. The bit that we manage is known as the Dell. There is a right-of-way that runs through it. As an organisation that is entirely funded by donations and grants and things like that, we would ask people to come either to our funded open days or contribute a little bit of money and come to our visitor days or some of our events to help us keep going and buying more trees and buying those bill hooks and things like that. So yes, the right of way is available at any time, but if you want to come and really explore the site with maps and things like that, then have a look at our website, and we've got our event.
We'll talk about that in a moment, but I mean, what's your background here? Because, you know, by the sounds of it, you sort of fell into this a little bit. Is that a fair way of describing how you came to be in this place?
It is. I mean, I've been told by my parents that I was, whenever they couldn't find me, I was outside in the garden under a tree somewhere. So I think it's been in my bones since I was very, very little. But I was working for charities in London, and I was really, really struggling with my mental health. And I think back then people didn't talk quite as much as they do, and it wasn't quite as topical to be honest and open in your workspace about your mental health. And I just had this sense that I needed to get back outside. So that's when I started asking around and saying, excuse me, I've got this lovely idea where I think we could get people outside, and all these different woodland owners were looking at me with suspicion and going, I don't know quite what you're talking about. And luckily, woodlands.co.uk said, we understand what you're talking about. We will give you a space. And I think there's something very well, it's scientifically proven now and very rigorously tested that simply being outside in nature is good for your health. It lowers your blood pressure. They've shown that you are happier for at least a week if you spend X number of hours outside among the trees. But further to that, there is a process of when you learn the difference between, well, that's plant and this is this native plant and this is the other native plant and this one's a garden variety that's escaped, and starting to really connect, that does something to your brain and improves your outlook on life and gives you a sense where you belong in this country and in the landscape that we live in, and really you really find a grounding and a connection with your open spaces around. And I think that process really helped and supported me. And so rather than knowing about the difference between an ash and an elm, I was very much coming from the point of view that you can learn that. The process of learning it is good for you. And I know I can get people in who know more than me to help and support and teach. I feel like I know quite a lot now. I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I've continuously surrounded myself by people who have very generously given their time. The local bat expert, for example, an ancient tree expert, and we've had a lot of help and support from different organisations. Western Boat have been very open and honest about how they do things with us. That's helped support the way we do things, and planting policy for the first time. So all of that expertise and knowledge is something that I'm trying to acquire, but I just go and find great people, and usually because they see the value of the project and how we're helping people, they tend to say yes. Is one
Good for you. And I think there's one, and you could describe forever the various schemes that you've got going, but I understand there's one in particular that you're proud of, which is helping women recovering from addiction. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it was an idea that a friend of mine who's a forest school instructor thought up. We were both separately running events that helped women get outside and try out bushcraft in an atmosphere that didn't feel too macho and that felt safe, and that you could be a bit rubbish at lighting a fire if you wanted and you weren't going to be belittled for it. All these perceptions people have about outside being quite macho, which in my experience is not at all. It's very welcoming and nurturing. So we were sitting around and thinking, well, we're helping and supporting all these people who can buy a ticket, but there are people out there who wouldn't even know to go and buy a ticket and potentially couldn't afford it anyway. So we came up with the idea of the Hawthorn Project, which we bring women to the woods on a regular basis. They can come as long as they like, because the changes in your resilience and your confidence and the skills that you gain really embed the longer you come. So we work with a sort of constantly evolving group of women who we bring them up on the bus. We have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and a crumpet with butter and things like that. And then we explore the arboretum, we explore the trees, we explore the different animals that we see there. We might try willow weaving one day, or herbal lip balm making the next day, or how to use an axe safely on another session. So it's really very varied, and it's very much led by the interest of the women that we have in the group at the time. Pre-COVID, we were doing an awful lot of wonderful cooking on the fire, but we've had to scale that down a little bit. But so we we've seen that for the women who do engage with the project, and obviously it's not for everybody, some people try it and decide that it's a little bit too muddy outside, too snowy or too cold and wet. But people have been coming for a long time, for years in some cases, and they say to us that they consider themselves to be a woodland woman, and everybody sees them as this strong independent woman. They've made new social connections. If you stop if you want to move away from an addiction, you have to also move away from the people who keep you in it, so your social network completely disappears. So you come out to the woods and you're with a self-selecting group of women who want to change and do different things. So just a group of them are camping this weekend, booked a campsite. So it's a life-changing project for the staff as well as for the women.
So obviously you're helped in your mission by a lot of volunteers. So any CPRE members or anybody for that matter who'd like to get involved, I mean, it's not just about the Hawthorn Project. There are other things as well, aren't there? So what can you offer the average man or woman or child in the street?
We've got different levels of volunteering. Our regular monthly volunteer day, and we are always welcoming in new people. The people who've come since the very beginning have cut back a lot of bramble, and so we're trying to find new and interesting things for people to do. So we might open up a new pathway or rediscover an old Victorian pathway and put some steps in. We might plant new trees. We might do physical work, but very low key and very sociable. And we usually have a lunch as well. So that's on the third Sunday of the month, and the details are on our website. We also have a much more family friendly, very, very social open day, our community tree planting day on the 16th of October. And we'll be from 10 till 4, and we've just got a few new specimen trees. The whole day is funded by Wessex Water and the Heritage Lottery, so it's completely free to attend. We'll have forestful activities. We're hoping to have some singing as we plant the trees as well. So it's very much about the family coming together, learning about the trees, going off exploring. Anyone who's really into their rare and exotic trees is very welcome to come and see our new numbering system up and running, and ask our tree officer any questions as well. So it should be a really fun, relaxed family day.
Sounds great. So October the 16th, that's the date for the diary. If anybody's inspired to get in touch, what's the best way of getting in touch with you?
Our contact details are on the website. It's tortwortharboretum.org. We do quite a lot via Facebook, and we're at Tortworth Trees on Instagram and at Tortworth Arboretum on Facebook, and our email addresses are all on the website as well, and we're always very happy to receive emails from people who want to get involved.
Okay, well, let's say we have a busy and restful autumn, because also we are now in autumn, and by the sounds of it, you guys have been really busy, and thanks very much indeed for joining us today. It's been really interesting to hear what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Mark.